Fantastic job! You've now made it all the way through the SQL Server on VMware Accelerator course. After taking the last 2 decades to build out my step-by-step process to improving the entire system stack underneath SQL servers, we've laid out the most solid foundation for your databases. Now that we've laid the foundation, the fun really begins. I sincerely hope you're as excited about the way infrastructure technologies interact with your databases as much as I am. I encourage you to start tinkering on your own. You don't have to have a crazy big server farm or really expensive equipment to build out test environments to help you learn. You might want to start by talking with your VMware administrators and request that you and your team get read-only access in the vCenter so you can now apply what you've learned in this course. If the VMware administrator shows interest in learning more about what you're doing, it's an excellent time to help educate them on any tips and tricks that you find that can be applied to your environment. Since they most likely don't have a SQL Server background, they may not be aware of all the nuances with the database engine that can apply my recommendations to your servers. This may also be an opportunity to tear down some organizational silos and work more closely together all the time rather than just when you need something, or vice versa. You'll find that this level of interaction will not only help you when reactively dealing with operational challenges, but can start to help you proactively to maintain performance and reduce the frequency of all the reactive firefighting that I'm sure we all do. The end goal is to allow everyone to work better and make sure that the data platform provides the best possible foundation for your organization's data. If you want to get even more geeky with this topic, and I would highly encourage it, there are 3 books on the screen here that I would recommend that you purchase, not just for you, but for your infrastructure team as well. The first is the VMware vSphere 6.7 Clustering Deep Dive. The second is the VMware 6.5 Host Resource Deep Dive. The third is the VMware vSphere 6.7 Data Center Design Cookbook. Don't let the older version of these books scare you away, as they're directly applicable no matter the VMware version. These are my top books for helping people understand both the performance and availability aspects underneath modern virtual SQL Server platforms. The next step is constructing a test lab for you to be able to tinker and tweak and test without anyone yelling at you if you accidentally break something. If you have some sort of sandbox environment at your company, I would encourage you to talk to your boss about getting full access to those. My favorite form of exploration is understanding how the platform responds if you do something. Make a change, measure the results, see what happens when you intentionally break something. See how your SQL Server responds when you make a virtual machine change. Having this ability to explore and test is critical to understanding and being able to predict what will happen when you make production level changes. If your company doesn't have the sort of platform available to you, you don't have to stop there. You can set up a personal lab. Any workstation or laptop with decent specifications should be good enough for you to be able to spin up a copy of a hypervisor without having to spend a ridiculous amount of money or add a lot of complexity. Make sure you have a decent processor and a pretty solid amount of memory. Usually 16 gigs is more than enough to spin up a virtual machine on your laptop. Solid-state disks are almost a requirement, as trying to do this with spindle-based disks are going to be slow enough that you're going to get pretty irritated with the performance. If you're using a PC, desktop, or laptop, VMware Workstation will work great. If you're on an Apple product, VMware Fusion works quite well as well. However, you don't have to limit yourself to VMware products. If you're on the Windows platform, Microsoft Hyper-V or Oracle VirtualBox work good enough to be able to let you spin up any number of virtual machines to play with. If you're on an Apple product, Parallels Desktop or VirtualBox will also work just fine. Hyper-V and VirtualBox are free, and VMware Workstation and Parallels Desktop don't cost that much. If you want something a little more dedicated or something that's built for leaving on all the time, you can pick up some consumer-grade level hardware devices that'll work good enough as a small host. Intel's Nuke and Apple's Mac Mini will work just fine. The Intel Nuke that you see on my dusty desk here contains a 6-core i7 CPU, 64 gigs of RAM, and a 2TB NVMe SSD. It's really quiet until I start to push it. It actually works quite well with both ESXi and Hyper-V and was not too pricey at all. The only thing that I find is you may have to tinker a little bit with a handful of the drivers, specifically around storage controllers and network adapters. The 3 sites on the screen have lots of information about making these devices work with VMware ESXi. If you're looking for something more robust, you can do what I love to do and purchase refurbished server-grade hardware. This is a fantastic way to buy a device that was built to run around the clock with higher CPU core and memory densities than consumer-grade equipment, and do so inexpensively. These are very reliable devices, and buying them refurbished means that if you do need to purchase a part for them, the price tag is usually very inexpensive when buying off of a site like eBay. You do need to consider the power draw, space needed, and potential noise of the servers, however. While modern refurbished servers are fairly quiet in operation, they can draw a significant amount of power and are not the smallest devices. Power draw can mean heat, so they do need to be in somewhat of a well-ventilated area so that they don't run and cook themselves. An example of this type of refurbished server is on the screen here. It's an HPE ProLiant DL380 Generation 9. The server has 2 sockets of 8 CPU cores apiece with a moderately fast per core speed listed. It has 128 gigs of RAM, 12 1TB disks, 4 1GB network adapters, redundant power supplies, and as of the time that I wrote and recorded this, you could buy it online for just over $1,100 USD. You can't build a physical consumer-grade server for anywhere near that price, and this thing was designed to run around the clock reliably. If you have the space and the power feed, I would argue that this machine will draw less than 300 watts of power when running, and it might be the way to go. This server would run VMware ESXi, Microsoft Hyper-V, or any of the other major hypervisors on the market right now quite well. If you want to explore more of the products that VMware offers, the VMware User Group, or VMUG, sells a package called the Eval Experience. It is 1 year of pre-production licenses for many VMware products, including the full vSphere Enterprise Plus, Cloud Foundation, NSX, vSAN, and the virtual desktop platform called Horizon. It has enough licensing to cover 3 2-socket hosts. At the time of this writing, it was only $200 USD per year, which I think is a great value for getting into a pretty serious lab platform. If you want to learn more, check out the link on the screen that'll take you to their site. Given all the changes that 2020 has brought us, tech events look a bit different. There are many virtual events to stay on top of all the challenges with these platforms. VMworld is the big VMware event that is held every year. I've been fortunate enough to present for many years at VMworld, including a session in 2020. In addition, the VMware User Group holds regional events throughout the year. There's also many regional SQL Server user groups, and at the time of this recording, some of the larger Microsoft Data Platform groups are currently reforming to be independent and are all virtual at the moment as well. Keep your eye on the SQL Server community online as these continue to grow. Just remember that every single thing that we talked about in this course is completely relevant if and when your organization is ready to move to the public cloud. Virtualization is the first step. Cloud is just simply virtualization in somebody else's data center with some really good automation there. You may not be able to see some of the layers, but rest assured they are there, and everything that you've learned here will help you make the most of your cloud experience. If this course has taught you anything, take it from me. Question everything anybody ever tells you and test for yourself to make sure that any recommendation, whether you find it in the vendor's official documentation, here, or in some blog, works for you. Don't just change things to make change. Tweak and tune where necessary, but make sure every bit of tuning that you do results in a measurable positive improvement. We've covered a lot of ground in this course, from reviewing the intricacies of the entire infrastructure stack from the bottom up to studying how to boost and maintain performance and availability of your SQL servers. Hopefully, the knowledge and processes will help you increase the performance while decreasing the operational costs for your servers. It's truly been a pleasure creating and recording this course for you. I thank you for listening and learning with me, and I hope you've enjoyed the course. Please make sure to check our social media channels to keep up with the latest announcements. And if you have any feedback or thoughts on ways that I can make this better, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'd love to know how this course helped you make your data platforms better. Thank you.